Yeah, I'm going to begin because I know I haven't got too long today, but
Okay.
it was just, just asking. I mean, you've sort of spoken about this in the past, but what it was about sort of Joe's story that just appealed to you so much as a storyteller and creator of TV. What it was about this tale that really inspired you.
So much. I guess the first thing really was Vic McQueen and her family. When I started reading the book, I saw really quickly that it's set in Haverhill, Massachusetts, which is right up the street really from where I grew up. And at the center of it is a coming of age story about this blue collar kid and her family, which in the novel, I thought the McQueens were drawn so carefully and with such nuance. And I hadn't quite seen a family portrayed like that on TV and maybe ever. And so that was kind of what initially drew me to it. And then, of course, it's super spooky and imaginative, and Charlie Manx is a really interesting villain. So, I started with Vic, and then Charlie, and then Maggie. And so the family, the characters, and then the world.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, the best TV stems from having great characters, really. And one of the things I love is that we sort of have to wrestle with our own moral compass at times. I think that we have to determine sometimes if they're good or bad, if their actions are justifiable or reprehensible. That has become a kind of integral trope, really, in good TV. How important is that for you, to have characters that make us question ourselves as audience members?
I think that it's, for me anyway, as a viewer, when I'm watching a television show, it's one of the things that keeps me most engaged. If I'm trying to understand a character, it draws me into a character to try to understand their motivation and to wrestle with whether or not this is someone I should be cheering for. You know what I mean? Yeah, and it's interesting in the book too. That was another thing that I appreciated about the book. All of the characters are deeply flawed, including Vic McQueen, who also is enormously courageous and has a big, beautiful heart. So I guess just as a viewer, I like those characters that kind of keep you on your toes. And so when I'm working on TV, I try to create them as well, or honor them.
Is that just how you work then, just personally speaking? Is it, do you approach it and think, what do I like as a viewer? Is that your kind of basis for how you operate?
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's like at its simplest. I think, yeah, that's probably true. What do I want to watch?
Yeah.
I guess is the compass for me.
And I mean, obviously, there's so many challenges in adapting from a book. Have you felt that pressure was alleviated a bit for season 2? Just because in the first season, so many people are watching and naturally drawing comparisons to the book if they've read the book. But by a second season, I guess people who are going to go into that, they know that this world is of its own. It's its own beast, and I just wondered if you felt less pressure crafting the second season, knowing that the kind of book comparisons were slightly less significant from audience members.
If there was less pressure, it was because I knew that Joe Hill was on board. I'm always a little anxious. I want fans of the book to like the show, so I'm always like, oh, I hope that they like this. I felt more in season 1 I felt more that way about Joe than I did about the viewers, because when we started off working in season 1, I hadn't yet met him. And so I was kind of like, every step of the way, I hope Joe likes it. I hope Joe likes it. I hope Joe likes it. But Joe has been so supportive and such an advocate of the show. And so I feel like he likes the show. I feel confident in that. And I feel like supported in that way. So that definitely was a big pressure taken off in season 2.
Yeah, because I guess, when you're showing the show to people, you always want to hear good reactions, but no one's response will have been more important to you, I guess, than Joe. So that must have been quite nervy, sort of sitting him down and showing him it for the first time. But you must have been so thrilled that he's not only does he like it, but he likes it so much he wants to get on board for season 2.
Yeah, he's such a generous person, and I think he gets enjoyment out of seeing what we do with the book. So yeah, it's been great, and it was terrifying at first. I remember early on he came to set and came to a table read of a script that he hadn't read yet, and as we were sitting there, he was kind of like he had his pen out, and I kept seeing like furiously scribbling on the script, and I was like, oh no, what is he? And at the end of it all, he was like, I have some notes, and I was like, okay, what, he hates it, and they were things like. He said, Charlie is an old character. Here he says he calls one of the kids my child. He said there's an old expression where people would call kids my joy. Could he say that? And I was like, yeah, he could say that. And it was kind of little things like that, which were additive, but not destructive in any way.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm just wondering about seeing it all come to life, and because I mean, I guess at one stage for you, this was an idea of something you wanted to do, and then you're sort of sat in a writer's room and you're trying to craft it. But when you're actually on set and you can see, Christmas Land and all the characters in real life, is it quite overwhelming sometimes to just walk around the set and think, at one point this was all just in my head, and now there's hundreds of people walking around making it a reality?
I mean, it's awesome. It comes in pieces. Christmas Land in particular, so much of it is VFX. Part of it is practical, but a lot of it is VFX. So you see it on set, it's the kids that overwhelm you because the kids are awesome. And it's a lot of green screen. And then, we just kind of finished our last couple episodes a few weeks ago and got all of the VFX in, and again, it's another transformative part of the process. So you shoot it and it looks one way, and then with the VFX, again, it's like, wow, this is a whole other new thing, which is cool. Like, some of the directors haven't even seen it yet, and I'm excited for them to see their episodes.
So if you mentioned you obviously only finished a couple of weeks ago, does that mean that a lot of you have been working kind of in lockdown, sort of independently of each other? And how's that kind of experience been for you, kind of bringing a TV series together but not together physically?
It's been a little slow, and there was definitely a learning curve to it. Thankfully, we got everything before the lockdown, and we got, I would say, about halfway through post when we got locked down, and started working remotely. And so it was a lot of our post producer managing different files and making sure that we were sent the right file, and a lot of back and forth, and a lot of doing what you and I are doing right now. And it took us a minute to kind of get used to it, but then I think it worked out. So
yeah. I was wondering too about I love the casting of the show. I think everyone in it is just brilliant. Now, if you go back and read the book, do you picture the actors as the characters? Is that because I know, or do you still have the original?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I thank you for saying that about the cast. I think that our cast is phenomenal and one of the most special things about the show. So absolutely, whenever I read it, I'm thinking cast.
Yeah, and I just want also, I was wondering what I think that Christmas is has untapped potential in horror
for
and
terror.
Kind of, yeah, for terror. I mean, I think there's a sort of the Silent Night sort of slowed down and played. It's just inherently really spooky. I was just wondering, have you always found there to be something quite spooky about Christmas? Because I think even when I was a kid, I think there was always something that, as much as I loved Christmas and I loved the presents and the food, there was always something about it I found a little bit scary.
Yeah, I mean, I always loved Christmas. I think that Joe has got ambivalent feelings about Christmas, and he has definitely showed me the creepiness that is underlying. I don't know, because so much of it is about like the night and stillness and quiet. And it's interesting. Joe said to me once when we first started working on the show, he said, there's nothing creepier than a candy cane in the middle of the summertime. And so I think that part of the creepiness is the juxtaposition with a time and place where you don't expect it,
Is the break in between seasons and waiting to find out if you've had the green light quite a nervy one for people in your roles? Because I guess when you're making a TV series, you're always thinking ahead as well. You're not just crafting season one, you're crafting season one with the aim for making more down the line. And then your fate is completely left in the hands of other people. Was that must have been, well, yeah, firstly quite nervy, that period, and secondly you must have been so over the moon when they said, right, season 2's going ahead.
Yeah, I was always really excited about season 2. Because as you said, you do kind of think about the story in terms of chunks, I guess. And it was season 2 covers this part of the book that I was excited to get into. I know that Ashleigh Cummings, who plays Vic, was really excited about a season 2. And so yeah, you just kind of like, I love season 1, but was really anxious to work on season 2. And yeah, it's pins and needles until they say go ahead.
Yeah, because how far ahead do you kind of think when you are crafting a TV series? Do you, because I mean, I remember I was quite late to the Breaking Bad wagon, but I watched it about sort of 2 years ago, and there were things that happened in like series 6 that you think, oh my god, that was planted in series 1. Is that the case for writers? Do you often picture things that could happen sometimes 3 or 4 series down the line?
Yeah, sometimes, and then sometimes it's a little bit about like using all parts of the buffalo, I've heard the Breaking Bad writers talk about this as well too. Like some of it was deliberate, and then some in terms of the way in which they crafted the whole thing, and then some of it was, here's a character that we liked back when, and maybe we can bring them back. So I think it's a balance of planning ahead and then also kind of seeing what magic happens as you're creating the show itself. Millie Manx plays a big role in season 2, and part of that was planned, but a lot of it was that.
Yeah, I just wanted to about the well, in regards to the sort of second season, for fans of the first, what can they expect, even just sort of tonally? Is there something different? I mean, a lot of seasons, they have to maintain the same identity and they have to have a kind of running thread, but each season often feels slightly different to the last. So what's different about season 2?
I would say the stakes are higher. The pace is a lot quicker. It's a bigger, scarier season. In season 1, we were kind of unraveling what Vic's powers were, who the characters are. They were mysterious to the audience, mysterious to one another. But in season 2, we already know these people. We already know what their powers are. We already know what their weaknesses are. They know that of each other. Vic has a child when we come back in season 2 that is of the age of children that Charlie Manx likes to take. So right out the bat, they kind of clash in a more heightened way than they did in season 1.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey You Guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yes.
Nice.
Hey You